Hi everyone, team member Mark Sheeran here. Listen, everybody's been asking why we switched to the Skinner peep sights this year. And there's a whole bunch of reasons. First of all, the owner of Skinner Sights, Andy Larson, was willing to collaborate with us to build the best ghost sight for tracking on the market. And he took our input and really put it into practice. And the aperture, the ghost ring itself is thinner, so it allows more light in. It's all steel construction. It's got a lifetime warranty, and it's also a very elegant sight. So there are some other features as well. The ghost sight itself is dovetailed into the body of the sight, which makes it really, really sturdy, and it can't fall out of adjustment. And between that and the fact that it's all steel, and the peep sight is optimized for the tracker and the still hunter, it's an amazing sight. So you can go on to bigwoodsbucks.com and get your BWB Tracker Series peep sight today. All right, good luck on the hunt.
This is the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights in the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, and sitting here with my co-host, Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And Rick Labby.
Yep.
And our guest tonight to start off with is Mark Kenyon from Wired to Hunt and Meateater. And
hello.
There he is. He's up learning to do a little tracking up here with us this week. So we're winding down third week of deer season here in Maine, and conditions have been kind of off a little bit for what we like, but we've had some snow in the high country. We get a little shot of it here and there, and but it hasn't been what you call ideal tracking conditions.
Not at all.
No, so put a couple on the pole this week, and if you've seen the webcam, the little button buck was guide Big Ben. It attacked his truck coming down the highway one night.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some questions on that.
Yeah, there
Seeing
probably
that
was.
hanging.
Yeah. He was coming down to dinner there and hit that button buck. He said run. He thought it was a doe. It ran right in the side of his truck there and broke his neck or something.
How'd the truck fare?
He said there was some damage. It was over 1,000 because you got to, I guess, report it.
Yeah.
And then they give you a chit to keep the deer or whatever. But
Shoot.
so it doesn't look that bad. It's just you don't take much to make $1,000 anymore on a vehicle, right? So,
no. Geez, I saw a picture of that rollover. There was a rollover wreck just south down here, I think around the Johnson Curves when we had that black ice.
it's probably why they decided to salt last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time they did this year.
It is, yeah.
But that truck was in. I don't know how the guy said he got out uninjured, but I mean it was the cab was crushed right down. It was in bad shape, yeah. And the dog made it out too, so that was good.
Yeah. Probably looked like mine from 30 years ago when I did it.
Yeah.
Same place probably. So
I bet that dog couldn't wait to get out.
Yeah, it actually got ejected from what it said in the story.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
got ejected, but was okay.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So you come in Thursday night, Mark, and got baptized on Friday, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Finally got my feet wet.
Yeah. So tell us about your thoughts on your first day of tracking. And again, I had to go scout for some snow just to find some, and it was pretty marginal, you know.
Well, I was worried coming into this, looking at the weather forecast, that we wouldn't have enough snow to do anything. So I was actually tickled that we had as much as we did. And, you know, this has been something that I've watched from afar and saw people doing this. You know, I grew up learning to hunt in northern Michigan. We got a little cabin up there on 40 acres surrounded by public land, and my grandpa had a Benoit book, tattered old book from the, I guess, 80s probably.
70s.
70s? Okay.
Yeah.
And it sat there on the shelf, and I've looked at it. I've paged through it very carefully because it's literally falling apart. But it's been one of those things that I always thought, I need to figure that out because not much else works up there. We weren't seeing much doing what we were doing. So it's been on the radar for a long time. And, gosh, probably since the first time I talked to you on my podcast, something 2-3 years ago, I knew that if I was going to do it, it'd be nice if it could be with the man himself. But I didn't quite know how that would happen. And, you know, this project I'm working on this year, it just seemed like a natural fit that if we were exploring all these different types of deer hunting cultures and traditions and styles, obviously we had to talk about the Northeast, and obviously we needed to track. So having it all work out and being able to show up here Thursday night and chat with you and then get out there the next day, you know, it was a whitetail dream come true in a lot of ways. And that first day, getting out there, just walking. I remember the first 15-20 minutes. You know, you're trudging up the hill and I'm behind you, and just taking in the scene and the snow and breathing in the crisp air. I just had a big stupid grin on my face. And I remember thinking, if Hal turned around and looked at me, he'd think I'm really weird because I'm just cheesing back here, big grin, just smiling, trudging along, and it was like that, you know. And then we found that first track pretty darn quick.
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes, I think.
And then we were off to the races, and I thought, man, this isn't so hard. But do you want me to go through the whole thing, Joe, or what do you guys? How do you want to pace this? Because I could just start talking and keep going for too long, probably.
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
Let it roll.
Yeah. Tell your story for that day.
Well, yeah. You know, what I appreciated about you, Hal, was that you were patient with me because, and maybe everybody you take out there with you is like this, maybe not. But I wasn't just interested in following you along. I was bugging you with 10,000 questions throughout the entire process. Well, why are you doing that? Or what are you looking for here? Explain this. Or what about this situation? Or what about that scenario? Really wanted to get as much insight into what was going on inside your head as I possibly could. So
you don't want to be in there, though.
Spend too much time there could be dangerous. So, yeah, I mean, I picked your brain on everything I could think of, and we worked that track a good long ways up a ridge and spun around, went back down it. And then what was interesting was that he came down off that ridge. We thought he was going to head back actually maybe towards where we had originally walked up. But then he stopped. He started feeding on some mushrooms, and then he turned and started heading right uphill. And hell, you pointed out, man, this is textbook buck getting ready to bed kind of activity.
Right.
And
yeah,
so
I thought he'd already seen us at that point, was gone.
Mm-hmm. So we slowed down, kind of got ready, talked through some things to be prepared for, and slowly edged on up that ridge and took a look, and there was nothing. So then we continued following the track, no slow down, no bed. And then he went on I don't know what he was doing. He went on an interesting little journey.
I would say he had checked what he needed to for does in that area, and he was cross-countrying.
Mm-hmm. Was it surprising to you that he went right down to the edge of the lake, and he paralleled the shoreline for a long ways?
Yeah.
Right down there, I mean, almost on the beach almost.
Yeah, he got in the grass for a while there.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, I think the reason – no, I didn't think it was unusual. I think the reason he did it was because there was a lot of finger ridges. Instead of going over all the ridges, he just went right down and sailed right along flat.
Yeah.
And then –
Yeah.
They're pretty smart about things like that.
Yeah.
Trying not to waste energy and get there as quick as he could.
They know where those groups of does are, so
Oh, yeah.
they're going to check a group and take the shortest route to the next group.
Once he headed out, he never turned. He was straight ahead all the way the whole length of the lake.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we followed him all on that way, and then eventually, unfortunately, lost him in a patch of pines of some kind and no more snow.
Lost the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went right down into that thick green growth with all the moss in it and stuff, and no snow. Not a lick of snow in there.
Yeah. But I felt really fortunate to have at least had that opportunity. I think the tracker, my app showed about 4.5 miles we followed that buck. Early, we'd gone 4.5 miles total. We picked up that track, though, pretty quickly. So maybe 4 miles.
Yeah, we had that track within a half a mile easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So got a lot of time of just observing how, you go about tracking, how you go about, interpreting what's happening, reading the clues, trying to decipher the story of what this buck was thinking, why is he doing what he's doing, when different deer enter the picture,
right.
How to figure out what to do there, and making sure you're following the right track coming out of it. So getting that much time to see how you go through that was very helpful. And then after that, it was basically seeking another track. Took a long hike up another ridge, back the other direction, saw some scrapes, saw a couple rubs.
Came across that other fresh track, but it was a small one. It was probably like a spike horn by himself, and it was just made because we'd had, everything looked the same during the day. They were froze a little from the night, and then all of a sudden there's this one. I could see it where it walked through the water. It's just the mud dripped everywhere. I said, that track's just made, sure enough.
Right.
But we didn't bother with it because it was small. And then we had another sandwich around 2 o'clock, 2:30, and then it.
Yeah, sandwich breaks, I've come to find a really important part of the tracking hunt, a big part of the experience. Not only yesterday, but also today. But yesterday, you showed us a couple of your old guide tricks that we then tried to copy this time. The birch bark seat to keep your back end dry. That was smart. And then the little birch fire to keep your hands warm. That was smart. So those are a couple tricks I filed away for next time.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a nice little break we took there. The snowstorm, a little power snow came through. And
too bad it didn't last about an hour longer.
That's all it needed. That was a nice
guys
squall.
that. I said, if this lasts an hour, we're going to be doing pretty good here.
I wondered because I was down around this area. You guys were a good ways away, and I thought, it's probably just local. It's probably just right here. But it seems like it went through everywhere.
Yeah,
up here. But
some areas was
it came down for a minute.
Yeah, some areas there was more than others. It was kind of strange, really.
Yeah, it was gorgeous up there. That snow coming down and big old fluffy snowflakes.
Nothing like it.
Mm-hmm. It was great.
Yep.
And that was basically it. We circled on back to the truck, close to dark, and we put in 9.7 miles, something like that. So a good long
day.
run.
Yep.
Yeah.
I said to Hal when we got in the truck, we earned our dinner. felt like it eat and not feel guilty at all. That's for sure.
Yeah. Then we seen 2 moose on the way out, on the drive out, little bulls. And we was trying to get the cameraman in the back seat. And we were trying to we're like, hey, see the moose. And we didn't get no response. We looked back, and their chins were on their chests.
It just zonked.
Al said they looked like a couple of kids back there taking a nap.
They did, too. They really did. They were out of it. It was great. It was a great first day.
Yeah.
That's one thing I got for sure out of all the sightings that everyone's had through this season is the moose population is A-OK.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the reports on the bulls are like ridiculous.
But
a lot of them.
what I'm seeing is in the places where there's, always traditionally been a lot of moose, there's still good moose, but a lot of those places that I hadn't hunted for, like where we were, I hadn't hunted in that for 10 years. And there's nowhere near the moose now. They're very few. They're scattered. There's you'll see a track here.
Is it because of the cutting out there, or lack of?
I think the ticks got them was full, and they eat themselves out. If you look around in a lot of them places, there's nothing to eat in the winter anymore.
Right.
They've cleaned it. Everything that was balsam, and it's gone beyond the usefulness for moose. See,
it's too big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, down this way, there's always new cuts,
new growth,
and there's different stages of it. But up there, a lot of that country, the last time that was cut was 30 to 40 years ago. So just there isn't much.
You're saying the cutting practices around here are actually good for something?
Yeah, something, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I always say you got a saying that you either love it or you hate it in the big woods. So I got an idea. I know your answer, but
I love it.
all right.
I'm in.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
It's my kind of country. Growing up northern Michigan, it's very familiar, just hillier. But otherwise, it feels like the kind of country that I grew up just,
Pretty similar.
dreaming of all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's right up my alley. Plus, I'm one of those knuckleheads that likes to hike just to hike. So you add in hunting to the hiking, and it's a good fit for me. So
yeah, he's built to go too.
Yeah.
We got those long legs.
Yeah, I noticed that right off.
My poor cameramen, they've not been enjoying that fact as much because we were cruising with you yesterday, and I think they thought that when you were gone, I'd slow down. But no, we didn't. We stuck with the pace that you set.
Yeah.
And they're going to sleep well tonight.
Yeah.
So you guys went solo today.
We did. We took it on our own.
When I first heard that you were coming, and I think the original plan was, or at least what I heard was, you were going to go with Hal for a day, and then, you know, a lot of things are lost in translation too, and then you're going to go the next day and just go get one the next day, you know, is the way it kind of came across. And I'm like, well, that's a tall order.
Yeah.
You know, but I just did find out you're here for a little bit longer, so you're going to stay till Tuesday, right?
Yeah, so we thought we were going to have one day with Hal and then 3 days on my own. I didn't realize that Maine has the no Sunday law, so now I've got 2 days on. Well, no, I take that back. We thought we were going to have 4 days on my own. It's only 3. So it's still a tall order to try to pull it off in that short time frame, obviously, too.
Especially with it doesn't look like there's going to be anything for snow on Monday.
Yeah.
You know, I think everything's going to disappear. So you got Monday, but you got to leave Tuesday, or you hunting Tuesday?
Got to hunt Tuesday.
And then leave
that evening.
And leave in the evening.
Yeah.
Never know. Might get some squalls.
We could. Because that rain, it's supposed to turn to squalls afterwards and snow showers. So sometimes that happens and it dumps an inch or two, you know.
Yeah.
Or even in the high country, it might cool quicker and get some. That's usually the way it works. But
yeah, hope for the best.
Yeah.
But to your point, Joe, you know, it is a tall order, and what the reason we're doing this is I'm going across the country this fall, meeting with different kind of regional experts for their specific style of hunting. And so I've gone and I've hunted with somebody that is all about hunting in the suburbs. So I went and hunted in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., spent a day with that person, pick their brain, learn to do what they do, and then go try to guinea pig it myself. And I've done it in all these different places now. And coming into the hunting season, you know, this spring and summer when I was thinking this idea up and we were brainstorming it and writing ideas down, I thought, man, this is a great idea. This is going to be really interesting. This is going to be fun. And then I started going on these hunts and realizing how stupid I was to think that I could pull this off in 3.5 days or something like that to actually kill something, or at least to kill something that I would usually want to kill. You know, I've realized after the first hunt like that, and in that case, I really only had 2 days to hunt because in D.C. I had to go and knock on doors to get permission, and it was a whole thing. And so very quickly my standards have had to change. But outside of the fact that I'm not going to fill a whole lot of tags probably, it has been fascinating getting to step into all these different worlds, force myself to, you know, rapidly learn new things, rapidly set aside my assumptions and all the things that I previously had known, thought, did, and really quickly learn how to adapt to new things and new places. And in this case, you know, it's quite unlikely that I'll be able to get a shot, but just the process of getting out there, going through the steps. I even felt today, getting on track, just what great practice it was, even though it wasn't likely a big buck. It was just the fact we were on a track, spending time reading that.
Right.
I could see there was value here no matter what.
Oh, yeah. You'll learn something every time you follow one.
Yeah. Just a great learning experience is what I'm seeing already.
Yep. Well, I always tell people that want to get serious up here is, you know, most people take their week and, you know, have a week. But really, I tell people if you really want to be fair to yourself and you know, have a reasonable expectation of killing a nice buck is plan 2 weeks. Because in 2 weeks, generally, you're going to get some kind of good conditions, you know.
Yeah.
This year, not so much.
Yeah.
Most
or
years
last year.
Just putting it in perspective, I don't know what the numbers were. I mean, there's been quite a few hunters through here the last 3 weeks. And you would think, and we talk about it all the time, with that many hunters, someone's going to bump into a 220-pounder and kill it or some, you know, and it doesn't happen. I mean, it's tough hunting, and when the conditions aren't ideal, even when they are, it's hard. I thought Monday when we finally had snow, we all said, oh, yeah, there's going to be some deer killed today.
Well, this week there was, talking to the guys, there was a lot of close encounters, and there was shots fired and everyone else, but it just...
Well, everyone's seeing deer. Even last week where we had no snow on the second week, everyone sees deer. Everyone's seeing does. And
most of them have said they've seen more deer than they ever expected they would.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is. It's we say it all the time, but success rates are low up here, and it's for a reason. It's a tough place to hunt, and but when you do kill one, it's that much more satisfying.
That's why you love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's definitely. So how does it, coming from Michigan, do many people hunt this way in Michigan? I mean, or do you not have the land up there to do it?
Up in the northern part of the state, up in the northern low peninsula or in the upper peninsula, there is that kind of land. There's public land in a lot of stretches, national forests, where you could get on a track and go. I know some people, but it's definitely not it's not the most common. It's not not common at all, I guess I would say. There are a few people, but I would not. It's in no way a cultural thing like it is here. That said, I can certainly see myself bringing this back with me, because this is a way that I think would work really well where I hunt, where it's very low deer densities. You can't just sit in one spot. There aren't funnels, there aren't terrain features that are going to move large numbers of deer past you if you're sitting there. So I love the idea of getting out there and finding one, and proactively taking control of the situation and walking one down.
Just you and that buck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the low deer densities are to your advantage. There's not as many tracks to sort through.
Yeah.
Because there's some places it's, like where I told you I hunted in Montana and stuff. It's at times when the snow brings them out of the high country. There's so many deer in the bottoms. You really can't track.
No,
It's so hard. You get in. You're on one track, and then all of a sudden three other tracks the same size come together, and then you don't know. There's no way to know if you're on the same one when you leave it, unless it's snowing or whatever. So you could be working 4 different deer, and never catch up to them, So the low deer density's a lot better advantage, I think.
There's our silver lining.
Yep.
So yeah. I'm going to be trying it. I don't think I'm going to be able to go up there this fall with my schedule, but hopefully next year will be a more normal year for me back home, and we'll be trying this out. There's something like 6,000 acres of state land surrounding our cabin, so I could just go.
So how's the snow situation there this time of year?
It is kind of like what you guys have had this year. I don't know what it normally is, but opening day for us in Michigan is November 15th. So it used to be we always had snow on the opener, and now it's hit or miss. But there's a reasonable chance of having somewhere from a couple inches to 6, 7, 8 inches of snow
That's
is
all
possible.
It takes,
Yeah, and then we've got a muzzleloader season in December as well.
Right.
So very good chances of having snow at some point during that period to do this. Never like 3 feet of snow, in which it'd be tougher.
You don't want that anyway.
You don't want it.
Yeah.
No.
All the young guys say, I hope it snows a foot tonight. I go, hope it snows 2 inches.
The other part that's going to be great when you do it is when you don't have, and nothing against the camera guys, but when you don't have two people behind you, makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'm not setting myself up for success at all with that. We sound like a herd of elephants walking through the woods, and there's no matter of look backs or hands down like that, or anything's gonna shut them up. And
I find dirty looks work.
Yeah,
Hal taught me that.
No, I mean it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean you have to do it, and it's whether it's a camera guy or whether it's 2 guys and you're guiding or whatever. I mean, obviously it's a different hunt when you're out there alone for sure.
Tough. You don't make twice the mistakes. You make 3 to 4 times the mistakes because it's you talk or you're looking back, making sure that guy's where he should be when you should be looking ahead. And
so you had a prosecutor from New York with you this week, right, Rick?
I did.
Carrying a camera?
Yeah. He did good.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah, kept up with me.
How'd it go? You got on a good chase the first day, didn't you?
Yeah, we got on a buck there. We actually stole it away from Matt.
He made up for it, though.
Yeah, I found out later. He called me.
Yeah.
He says, "Was that track fresh?" I said, "Yeah, it was like 20 minutes old." He goes, "Yeah, I was right behind him." So I said, "Geez, I didn't know that."
Yeah.
But, yeah, we got on that buck, and he was probably 220, I'd guess. He was a big deer. And I thought we'd catch him a lot faster than we did. And he kind of went up the edge of the mountain and crossed back over the road. And he got into a group of does there, and he was running those does around. And then I saw one jump, and I swung up and see it was a doe. And so I grabbed my grunt. I grunted a couple of times, and I told him, motioned to him, just hold up and let's just sit right here for a minute. And I see another deer coming up through the chop and running right at us. She comes right up, and she was like 5 yards away. Stood there for 2 minutes looking at us, and I just expected that buck to come running up behind her, and he didn't. So finally she run off, and we waited there, I don't know, another 5-10 minutes, and we went down and we see he just, none of them does were in heat, and so he just kind of checked them and kept on his way. So that put us 20 minutes behind again, so kind of starting over. So you moved the gap ahead. We finally crossed the road, crossed back over our tire tracks where we'd already been, and he went up in on the top of the mountain there, and a little bit of mountain ash and that green stuff. We tracked him up in there, and it was pretty noisy. You got in that mountain ash, it was chest high, trying to get through, just like chandeliers, trying to get through it. And me and Brian, he was right behind me. And we get up in there, and there was 4 or 5 moose all together in one spot. And that buck had walked right in their tracks, and then the moose had walked in his tracks, so I knew they were together. And I caught a flash of a tail. I swung up, and I just see his rack and body go into the furs. And I held up, and I grunted real quick. I motioned to him I said, "Let's wait right here." I said, "He don't know what we were." I said, "I think he might have thought we were those moose." So we stood there, I don't know, 15 minutes. I grunted a couple more times, and he didn't show up, and made the sandwich mistake that you always give me hell. So I started thinking, he probably saw us, because he was standing right in the twitch trail. I said, he probably saw us. And if I'd waited 5 more minutes, he was probably 20 yards from walking right. He'd gone up and made a J-hook, and he was headed right down the twitch trail right at us. And I took 2 steps, and he was gone. Yeah. And then we stayed on, and we tracked him the rest of the day, and we ended up jumping him again in the hardwoods. And then he crossed 201, went right across the highway. Yeah. Don't get many do that.
No,
he
do
did
it once in a while.
But there was a group of does on the other side, and I think he smelled them the way the wind was coming, because it was in our face. And he crossed over, and there was 4 or 5 does over there in a big old cot. And he checked every one of those does, and he was zigzagging all over that chopping. And so we there was so many tracks in there, you couldn't really sort them out. So I said, let's make a loop. That's what I like to do. I like to make a loop on the high side of the cut, kind of up around. Then I can watch the cut and I'm just looking for one track coming out. So we made a big J-hook around that cut. And he had been running those deer all down in the low side. And we finally come onto his track where he left with one doe. So he singled one out, and we said, "Oh, perfect. He's got that one doe." And we followed him up into the top of the mountain there, and then he left that doe and followed her probably quarter of a mile, half a mile, and he left her. And he went right up into the high stuff, hooked left on the pretty steep little ridge right there with some ledges. He hooked left real hard, and the wind was blowing right to my back, right up over. And I said, "Oh, he's going to go right up here and lay down." And the wind was blowing a little bit. It was a little noisy. I said, "Probably kill him right now." And he hooked back to the right, and then he reversed right back so he could look at his back track. So when I come up that mountain, the wind was blowing to my back towards him. Plus, he was looking down through a little hole right there. And by that time, it was 3 o'clock, so we decided it's 2.5 miles to the truck as a crow flies. So I said, we'll burn in daylight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Time to get out.
Yeah.
Not like when we was younger, we'd go to the dark, then walk out in the dark, huh?
All the time.
I don't do that
Right.
no more.
No.
So we got to do a little shout out for Sam too.
Oh, yeah.
You saw the picture,
Samuel C.
right?
Dalty. Yeah.
Beautiful buck.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sent me a picture. That was a beauty.
15 years old. He did
Nice.
it all on his own.
Yeah. He
Muzzle loader.
passed up some other deer, so he was holding out for a good buck, and he got him.
Yeah, nice buck.
You think Chris is going to mount it for him? He better.
If you don't, we will.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That'll at least shame him.
Yeah, he's probably going to take us up on it now, so you have to spend the money. Nice job, Sam. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I enjoy getting that text.
Yeah, good job, Sam.
Hey, Hal here. I want to talk a little bit about our partnership with OnX Hunt. I've been using it for a while now, and if anybody knows me, they know I'm not a very techie person, but the OnX app is it's a real time saver. I remember the days when we poured over topo maps everywhere we was going to go and stuff, and I don't do that quite as much anymore. Where it's really helped me is scouting, whether it's deer scouting, a moose, or even turkey hunting in the spring, which I do. It really helps out. I don't have to spend as much time running around the truck burning up the gas. I'm just basically using my OnX. Got it on my phone. Don't even carry a GPS anymore. So I just download the areas where I'm going to be hunting, whether it's up north moose hunting, and I use it mostly on the satellite imagery. I like to see the cuts and the clearings and the turkey hunting, the hidden fields and stuff. But everybody's using it now, from the game wardens to land surveyors, and just a great tool. And with our partnership with OnX, if you use a code BWB, you're going to receive 20% off on your first premium or elite memberships. And you just go to onxmaps.com/hunt. You'll be glad you did. Good luck on the trail.
Tracking your schedule, especially with this, with what you guys are doing, running all over the place, is probably not something you can get back and do very often, but probably.
I'd certainly like to. This year it's not in the cards, but it's definitely, just even today getting to go out on my own and do it. I could see you called it an emotional roller coaster today, Hal. And I can see that for sure. I mean, I think all deer hunting is, but in a different kind of way. This one is because it's even longer. Well, I guess it depends on your situation, but so often hunting is these long stretches of monotony, punctuated by these brief moments of intense excitement. And the intense excitement in this case can be different because you've got these long stretches where you're searching for a track. You're just walking and walking and walking, and then you get this burst of excitement when you find that track. And then there's okay, what kind of track is it? Is this a track I want? Is this fresh enough, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got this new mini, emotions rising, and then you then decide, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to take. And now you've got another swing up. And then what I found is that this experience was a lot like being on a blood trail. So every time on a blood trail, you've got that initial excitement, and you're on it. Okay, it's exciting. And then, you get on those trails where eventually they start to slow down, and you start getting a little worried. And then maybe it starts petering out, and then you're like, shit. And then you see that next one, like, oh, I got blood. And then all of a sudden, this huge burst, like dopamine bump right again. Every time the track disappeared for a moment, or I got confused when it was all tangled up with other things, and all of a sudden you see the good one coming out the other side. Oh, got it. Huge burst. And that just continued for, a couple hours. That's a lot of fun. And I didn't see a single deer, but I still was having these different moments of discovery, figuring things out. It's like I don't know. Felt like I was a Sherlock Holmes for a while there, trying to be a detective. So many times I'd stop and say, all right, my cameraman kept trying to walk in around me and walking in tracks. I'm like, guys, stop walking. Step back. We got to read the situation. We need to figure out what's going on here. Kind of try to read the clues. And that was a lot of fun. Just that part of it, deciphering what was happening. So that's a long-winded way of saying that.
Yeah.
Did a lot of walking, did a lot of detective work, got on some tracks, didn't see any deer, didn't get up on one, but I still had a really good time with it. So, this fall, probably not, but next year I'll be putting this to work somewhere.
It is funny you said that, because it's one of those things we don't really think about or talk about, but just finding that good track, it is a major, it's exciting, when you find a good one and it's fresh and it's a big one and you're in an area, that you can go after them.
Wish I could find one.
I know, it's been tough this year. All right.
You will.
Mark Sheeran's going to jump in on my spot here
for
for a little bit.
We were tired of you anyway, Joe.
Same here.
We tired of your phone going off and you texting and everything else. Yeah.
I'm gonna have someone call.
Poor Joe.
Hey guys.
Hey, Mark.
Get your mouth up to the mic there, would you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you mentioned that tracking's just that's what it is. It's just constant excitement all day long, and even when you've been doing it as long as me and Hal, it's the funnest way to hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, I've hunted all over the U.S., almost every province in Canada, and tracking to me is you got a big buck in front of you all day, and you're learning all his traits, his whole route, his characteristics. So even the next day when you go find his track again, you kind of know a little bit about him, so you're learning more and more. And
Well, that's something that I thought about yesterday when I was with Hal is just how much you can learn about a deer, especially mature bucks who are such cagey, hard to find, hard to see animals that in the regular world you're not able to observe them too terribly often. Even in a state like Iowa, they're still relatively hard to get eyes on. But when you're walking on one like this, you can see into every secret he has.
Yeah, everyone.
It'd take you to the places you'd never guess. You'd never go there if you weren't on his track.
Ever.
You don't learn that.
Right.
Yeah. You can't learn that sitting in the stand. You know, you're not learning anything. You're just sitting there hoping he comes by. You know, you've picked what you think's the best place or whatever. But but the other things we learn tracking is we learn places that if you wanted to sit or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, he takes you by his signpost rubs and you know the annual scrapes and all the certain places they cross. You learn all of that stuff.
Yeah, and we learn, you know, like you and I, we learn over 40 years of tracking that I know where I can find a buck track. You know, we got a dozen places in the back of our head. So which one do we want to go to first and check?
Yeah.
And almost always there's one there.
Yeah.
I know in the Adirondacks a lot of times, because we don't have access, we don't have cut roads, you know.
Right.
And so they're a little more patternable, you know, because you'll have runs that have been there for a century or centuries, you know.
Right.
And so you can look on a map more in the Adirondacks and say, okay, I think there's going to be bucks here if there's a finger that comes down into a swamp or something like that, because they're not going to log it, you know.
Right.
Now, sometimes, though, you think you got it good and there's no feed, you know, or it ends up being a rock pile, you know, and with a bunch of birches on it, and there won't be a deer there for, you know, ever. But, it's a different experience.
You know, one big takeaway I had that I think more hunters need to pick up on, even if they don't want to track deer like this to actually hunt them, is make sure in January or February or March when you're not hunting to do this, to learn about what your deer do, to do exactly what we just described. Even if you want to sit in a tree stand, walk them down in the off season so you can learn some of those lessons. So you do understand what they're doing. That's going to help you place your stands. That's going to help you get into the mind of these deer, because these, you know, if a buck does something in 2021, there's going to be another buck that does something similar in 2022 and 23. They do these things for reasons. They use these features for reasons. So you can learn a lot and apply it forward.
Yeah, here you can't do it in January or February or March or April.
Too much snow, huh?
Yeah. You got to wait till the only time to scout up this way is as soon as the snow gets off, which could be mid-April, could be mid-May, but you know, and then for a few weeks before it greens up is the best time to scout, because everything looks like the fall again, you know.
Yep.
And then I don't go scout again until the week before the season.
Yeah.
Because they'll change their areas anyways when the leaves drop.
Always, yeah.
As soon as the leaves drop, they get to where they're going to be in the fall.
And in the winter, they're in a yard.
In the winter, they're in the yard, so it's a little limited. So the
situation.
I always said that the time to scout is really when you're hunting anyways. I'm always hunting / scouting, or scouting / hunting, whatever way you want to put it. But that's when I've learned most of all the stuff about deer is during the season. And those deer, the small bucks, the young bucks, even like the little button bucks, you know, the 6-7 month old deer, they kind of follow around the older bucks, you know. They'll go to signposts. They're trying to learn, you know, and that's how they learn where the signposts are. Then they'll start using them. They learn where them bucks travel. So that's why I've always said, you know, bucks go where bucks go, and if you know where there's bucks traveling, it's probably going to be forever, unless, you know, logging obviously is going to change it sometimes. But
I'll tell you something that I've been doing that works, and that's you find the signpost rubs, and then I put it on a map, and I literally draw a line between them, and I just cut my odds way down on cutting a track. You know, I mean, it's a pretty simple thing you can do. But if you find, like, there's certain sections in the Adirondacks, and that's how Austin got his buck this year. I on OnX, I sent him all the waypoints, and there's a line, like a horseshoe through this mountain range. And I said, put this on your map and just go, and you'll cut a track. You cut the track. He shot that buck probably, I don't know. Well, he's bare ground tracking down by the lake, but probably within 200 yards of the last signpost rub. Mm-hmm. You know, and it literally took a tour of that whole line. You know.
Yep. Now some of them will do that probably, but
some don't.
I've put cameras like half a mile apart.
Oh, you've done that?
Yeah, and there might be two that you get the same buck on,
but they don't.
No, it ain't the same bucks at all of them. It's they don't all travel in the same place.
Right, of course.
They all have their place they travel, but there's certain places they overlap, and that's a lot of times where you find those signposts. Yeah. But there is the best place to pick up tracks, because if there's 4 or 5 bucks that's using a signpost, the odds of one of them coming by on any given day is fairly high, you know. So, yeah. Well, if we get any snow, I'll be able to try that.
Yeah.
All my good signpost places are not necessarily in the highest country where we've had the snow, so I'm still waiting.
Muzzleloader.
I hope.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like this week coming up is going to be that great now.
I know.
We were all excited. It was calling for 2 to 4 inches a couple of times and all that, and it's kind of evaporated now.
Are you going to go to the Adirondacks this year? Because it looks like snow straight through the next 2 weeks there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. Yeah, I do. I'm smoking some briskets.
Careful with the hands.
Yeah, try not to burn my hands up again. Jeez. So anyways, so you've had a couple experiences this week, Mark?
Yeah, I had one day we started late, and I was hunting 3 days, and I was sore. And I said, you know what, I need a night's sleep. I'm going to sleep in. I don't normally do that, but I don't know, I'm 51, and I said I deserve to just take a morning off. So I did that, had a nice fat breakfast, got in the woods late, and caught a track in, I don't know, about 30 feet, which was a gift.
He's one of those guys.
No, I'm not. That doesn't happen. It happens like once every 10 years. And I wasn't going to take it because it was a small track, but I said, well, I'll take the gift, and I went up the mountain. I thought he was going to be a spike horn. I mean, he had a tiny track, not much of a stagger, probably a 2.5-year-old. And but I followed him up. He was with a doe. Went up the mountain. He doubled back down around a knob. And I said, I'm going to pull a Rick Labby here. I'm going to leave the track. I'm going to go over top and try and get on top of him. Because I know they're going to be bedded here because he was doing, I call it the helix. You know, they're dancing with each other, you know, and slowing down and nipping and bumping and all that kind of stuff. I said, they're going to lay down. So I did. I went over the knob, and the doe took off. But I didn't know it was a doe. They were in thick spruce. And I'm just watching the flag going through the spruce, and then I saw a little window. I saw, bald. And then I started immediately like, oh, you start to panic quick. Where's the buck? You know, because if she's running, he's not far behind. And then he busted out, but he was further in. And I took a quick shot, hit a tree. You know, your mind does a snapshot when you pull the trigger. And I was just swinging. But it's tough to pull your rifle back in one direction and then pull the swing back in the other direction. Then you got to catch up. And this all happens in a millisecond, you know. So then I had an opening, and the snapshot said I just killed the buck. I shot him. And then the last one was, a Hail Mary, insurance. And I didn't hit him any time. There was just too much stuff in the way. It's just one of those things that happens. So I tracked him all day. He ended up being an 8-pointer out past his ears. And I said, I can't believe he had a rack like that with a track like that. It just didn't make any sense, So, yeah, I'm not.
Got a good look at him, though.
Yeah. As soon as he took off, the gun wasn't around yet. My head turned and I saw, and then he was in the spruce. So, so then it was all day and the snow was going, and you got to control your panic, because it's just dripping away and it's getting slimy and the leaves are getting slimy, and I'm having to beagle all day on the bare patches, do circles all day long. So I'd catch up, the track would get fresh, and I'd lose ground. Fresh, then I'd bump him a little bit, and all day long.
He's on the roller coaster, say.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, between the physicality of it and the snow running out, and then fog was rolling in and out, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get him, And then I got to a road. He crossed a road, and I looked up at this mountain that went straight up, cliffs at the top, and I said, it's 2:30, 2:45. Do I really want to go up this mountain? I mean, he was trying to get rid of me at that point. Am I going to do this? And I said, yeah, I'm going to, because you just never know. And
Never give up.
That's right, never give up. And so I got to the top, and a really big buck track, a beautiful 220-pounder, crossed with a doe. At the time, I thought it was another buck because the doe track was so big. And I said, no, it's got to be a doe. He wouldn't be with another buck right now. They'd be fighting. So I tracked them. I was in the death creep immediately. And 250 yards later, he was out in a cut. I couldn't see him. I couldn't see her. There was some spruce, a finger of spruce that came down. She bolted, but I couldn't see her because fog rolled in. And it was so dark and dingy, almost dark out. And with peep sights, that's a tough go. So she was going through the spruces, but I couldn't tell it was her. And I'm looking for horns the whole time. And so she went right to left and went over the hill. And I said, wow, that's kind of a bummer. I thought it was the buck. And then he jumped up. But he was behind me to my right so far. So again, I had to swing the rifle in the opposite direction that he's running, catch up to him. And right when he dipped into the spruce, I took a shot. And then I saw him running through the spruce, and I took another shot. But I don't even think I aimed the first time. I was literally just snap shooting like a shotgun at that point, just on instinct, because I shoot a lot. But I didn't feel very confident. But 2 bucks in a half day's tracking, that's never happened to me.
You said that second was a monster, huh?
Monster. Biggest buck I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That I've tracked. Yeah, he was a brute. Big, thick beams. I mean, I only got a snapshot, but he was only 30 yards from me,
Wow.
And I had that one big leap where I'm pulling the gun around, and I was like, ho.
You got to shoot.
Yeah, you got to shoot.
Right.
Yeah, but it was way rushed. So I shot 5 times in an afternoon and no buck.
Got a hell of a story, though.
Yeah, that's a success. Yeah, it's as close as I could get,
That's half the fun of it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I was near 2 big bucks in the big woods in one day. That's a good day.
Yeah.
It was fun.
You wouldn't have done that sitting in the stand the whole 4 weeks.
No. No. I can't do that. I can't sit in the stand.
Right.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Just
guys
saying,
wouldn't-
though, in the big woods, they
Yeah,
don't.
No way.
Yeah.
You wouldn't like what I was doing a couple weeks ago, though.
I know. I admire you guys. The ability to sit for that long is unbelievable to me.
It can be rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rough. Brutal.
Got to have a different mindset for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I took my grandson out today, and we had that dust in there. I said he's got a doe permit, so
Yeah.
he says, "Brown is down, Papa." And I go, "Yeah, okay."
I remember that saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, we had a good day. We got on a track right off. Wasn't much snow. We just got a dusting again there yesterday afternoon, that squall, but it was crunchy. It was 20 degrees this morning there, and it was just crunchy. And
Yeah.
we took this track up into the. I should have known better, but I said, we'll go. We might catch him in one of the cuts. There's some new cuts around, and there's old cuts, and it was a small track, so I figured it'd be perfect. It'd be a dumb yearling or a doe, either one. It was a single track, but it led us to a bigger one, medium-sized track, and then we crawled around in the brush, and it was shagging does. But long story short, we ran out of snow anyways, and we come down off the ridge there, and no snow, and we decided that, well, we had a couple of, I'm short in the story, we had a couple sandwich breaks and stuff, but along the way, but we were most of the day, it was in the afternoon, and then we ended up seeing a big doe with 2 fawns, or lambs we call them here, but fawns, and I said, well, it's got two little ones there with it. He goes, yeah, first of all, it was kind of far anyways. I told him, I said, I don't think you can shoot. It was like 100 yards, and there was no way to get a rest really, and the sun was in their eyes. I could see she was staring, but the sun was in her eyes. She didn't know what it was, so she was just standing there, and the 2 little fellows who just started feeding around, and he goes, I don't really want to shoot that mother. And I go, no, probably not a good idea. Them little fellows might not make it here in the winter. And so then the fawns got apart a little bit. And I said, well, if you want to shoot one of them small ones. No, Puppery said, I don't really think I want to do that either. So that was cool. Good. He had a chance. But I said, you'll be rewarded for that. You're going to get a better one before the season's over.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Trying to find a big one of them old barren does that don't breed anymore, those ones that get out of they're the best ones to get out of the deer yards because they beat the other ones up and get all the food,
Yeah,
they do.
Mean.
Yeah.
They're mean.
Yeah.
Mama's mean. In the deer world.
So good day anyways for that.
Seems like he's really into it. Talking to your grandson the other night. He's fired up. That's pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
he's wicked cool.
He just wants to be in the woods. He don't want to be in school. He wants to be in the woods.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably wants to be a guide. I don't know.
Think he knows anybody he can get a job with?
Yeah. Probably take over for me. I don't know.
It's in the right family.
Yeah. So, well, all in all, I think this was a pretty good week. Like I said, we didn't stack them up too high, but everybody seemed to have a good time, and we got one more week of rifle. New crew coming in tomorrow night. Oh yeah, the highlight of the week was Guide Roger and his client. They both shot bucks the same day, a doubleheader. So that was pretty cool. You just unplugged me.
We can't hear him.
They can't hear me. Oh, you can? Oh, they're playing around with the microphones and gear, everything else.
Testing.
Things got unplugged. That's what happens. See, Joe's back on the scene and everything's screwed up again.
Now it's my fault. Mark left out of here like a herd of elephants and knocked it over.
Pulled wires out on his way by, Yeah. Yeah, so he had a 2-for-1 anyways. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to tell you the story about Brian this morning, my cameraman. So he called me last night and he's sitting over there laughing. But he says, I'll meet you at Pollen at 6 because I was home. I had to work all week, and he's staying at my camp with Mark and Bob. And
hey, wait a minute now. What are you doing working during deer season?
Oh.
That's a sore subject.
Sore subject, okay.
You don't even want to know.
Because he'd rather work than hunt, Al.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, never. So he leaves my camp this morning and right in the bridge in Rockwood, right by the marina. Yeah. So he's coming down across the bridge and he sees this great big buck walking across the bridge. How many bucks have you seen walk across the hot top bridge?
Never.
So this big 10-pointer that's been hanging around over there walking across the bridge, and he gets his phone out and he says, I'll take a picture of him. And just as he's snapping the picture, the buck dives off the bridge 15 feet in the air right into the Moose River. And he's got the picture to show it.
And now this is the best part. As I said, well, what did the buck do after he hit the river? And he goes, well, I don't know. I just kept driving. I'm like,
yeah,
you're all alone and you just witness a 10-point buck jumping off the bridge. No, we're not gonna stop and check it out. We're just gonna keep on driving. We see stuff like that all the time in New York.
I'd have left the truck in drive and jumped out with a knife.
Yeah.
Truck would have rolled into the embankment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is.
I
I'm sure.
thought that was a funny story.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't
You don't
happen
hear
every
it?
day.
No. He might be washed up against my dock tonight.
The only other time I didn't see it in person, obviously, but there's a video that ran around for a long time where the guys were videoing that buck running and it just dove off the interstate bridge there. But that one didn't jump in the water. That one died.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Oh, yeah, splatted. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this one made it. There's about 6 feet of water off that bridge.
Oh, yeah.
So,
like I said, he's probably not his first time doing
Oh,
that.
he practiced before.
well, Mark, I hope to see a post of a dead deer over the next few days. That'd be a pretty cool ending to the story.
It would. We're going to give it our best shot. We got a couple more days and going to put the miles on the boots, cover some ground. Well, I guess I don't know. Without the snow, maybe it'll be a slower game.
Yeah,
but,
we might.
We'll do whatever we got to do.
Shift gears there with that.
Hopefully.
We might get another plan going.
Well, if it
rains,
it's going to be quiet.
Yeah.
So that's the positive.
That might be what we need, given our situation.
Yeah.
So maybe that's actually the ticket.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to get out there and spend some more time and get eyes on one. We haven't seen one yet, so that's the next hurdle.
Yep.
They're out
Stay
there.
after them, you will.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
Persistence. That's what I always say, persistence.
That is the name of the
Don't
game,
give
isn't
up.
it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we appreciate you coming on with us. It's been
Yeah.
nice sharing camp with you and the
Oh,
guys.
geez.
And
Thank you all so much. It has been an absolute treat. A lot of fun.
You eating all right?
Eating great. The best, not the best part of the week so far, but a high note is the chicken dinner sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Is anyone else on board with me on that one?
Oh, yeah.
The chicken dinner sandwich.
I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
Never had that before.
Yeah, that's going to be something I'm taking home for sure.
Yeah. Monday we're having, well, tonight we had the famous meatloaf.
Here we go.
Monday is meatloaf sandwiches.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that.
Here we go, Joseph.
All right.
Well, I guess that's it for this week. And try to give you an update at the end of the season here.
Yeah, next time will
What
be just
happens?
after muzzleloader week.
You sure?
So, 2 weeks.
Well,
Yeah.
thought we might step it up a week again.
November
We could.
goes by way too quick,
Yeah.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
It does.
Holy cow.
I know.
We'll leave that on Chris Dalty. We'll let him make that decision.
All right. Sounds
We
good.
put all the tough decisions on him.
Might want to have Sam on the phone call.
We could do that.
Yeah.
And then Rylan can talk about his deer that he's going to shoot this week.
Yeah, that's right. Well, all right. Sounds good. So until next week or next time, good luck on the trail.
Hey, Hal here. Hey, one thing I realized as I was getting older is when I was younger, I never really planned for retirement. And so my client for the last couple of years, Jerry Smith, had been talking to me about it a little bit. And I don't know when I'm going to retire, but I definitely got to get ready for it. But Jerry owns a company called the Northern Way Wealth Management. And he's got a program he calls the Northern Way Retirement GPS, and it's a way you can plan to get your finances in order and live your best life, which means time in the woods to track down some big bucks. Because, the problem is not getting enough time in the woods for most people. And, whether it's family or other hobbies or, just financial obligations, it cuts into your hunting time. So Jerry has partnered with Dave Ramsey in his Smart Vest program where he helps folks in his process. And Jerry has partnered with us at Big Woods Bucks to offer you your very own no cost or obligation and Northern Way Retirement GPS. Just call or shoot Jerry a text at 715-551-4181 and mention the promo code BWB. Jerry's going to help you get some retirement time and some more income so you can hunt some more. Good luck on the trail.
Investment advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Northern Way Wealth Management, Retirement Wealth Advisors, and Dave Ramsey are not affiliated.
Hi everyone, Big Woods team member Mark Sheeran here. Many of you know that I have a passion for helping people solve their addictions permanently. As a matter of fact, me and my team have spent the last 31 years helping more than 20,000 people move on from their addictions. So know this, if you or someone you love want to move on from an addiction for good, and you don't want to be stuck in a rehab or 12-step meetings or endless therapies, then you might want to learn about the Freedom Model and the St. Jude Retreat. To learn more, give us a call at 888-424-2626. All calls are confidential. Here's that number again, 888-424-2626, or go to soberforever.net for more information. I really look forward to helping you end your addictions for good. Here's that number one last time, 888-424-2626. Take care.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
Hey, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the hunting club. And you can join by going right online at bigwoodsbucks.com. But anyways, I've got all my information is going in there. And it's a place where you can get together and look at my films, tips, writings, and all of that. And the best part is there's forums for you to communicate with, the rest of the club members, talk about Big Woods stuff and all of that. So anyways, $36 a year, cheaper than getting a Starbucks once a day. So join up and hope you see you on there. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.